Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the time zone from which you're watching this virtual conference, the Share August 2020 Virtual User Conference. I'm Jeff Charrington. I'm with ASG Technologies, and we will be presenting to you today a discussion of how to increase responsiveness without increasing scheduling staff as you deal with your workload automation needs on the mainframe. I am Jeff Charrington. I'm the Vice President of Product Management for our systems group here at ASG, and I'm joined by David.
I'm David Fleischman. I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer with ASG. I've been with ASG for 15 years. I handle their scheduling tools and our JCL tools.
And I'm delighted to have David here speaking with me. He has a wealth of not only experience working with the customers of ASG, but has been a professional operations scheduling manager himself, and will be bringing forward some of his experiences into this conversation. In terms of an agenda, we'll talk a bit about workload management and change management. There's a much higher intersection there than I had originally understood before David helped me better have a view of what the world looks like from the chair of a professional workload manager. We're going to talk about how to do more with less, shifting the burden of workload schedule change management from fingers on keyboards to automation. This is in line with what we understand are some of the overriding themes within IT management now in the time of the COVID pandemic. As we have more personnel who are working remotely, safe from home, and as we're looking for ways that we can economize within the budgets to ensure that we are still meeting our service levels and meeting the commitments we have to customers. In that, we'll talk a bit about what business process automation is, BPA, another three-letter acronym to go with WLA for workload automation. We'll talk about how BPA integrates with the mainframe, specifically the workload manager, and talk about some of the benefits this brings to the enterprise. David will illustrate some of the things that he's been working on with our coworkers here at ASG in terms of a typical example, and we'll conclude with some thoughts about how you could learn more. Let's start first with workload automation and change management. The foundation, I think, is going to be self-apparent. There's no data center that works efficiently, if at all, without having workload automation. It's crucial to ensure that you are effectively using the very expensive mainframe infrastructure that is in place. Every penny that's spent in the mainframe or around the mainframe is scrutinized very carefully. It's also critical to maintain service levels. Simply working to pinch pennies can certainly lead to situations where you fail to meet service levels, and it is through workload automation that you ensure that your batch cycles are completing on time and delivering the files or enabling the screens that are needed within the enterprise as scheduled. Workload automation is more than just job scheduling. Certainly with the decades of experience we have with our enterprise customers, what we see is that the workload manager is the successor to what was the original job scheduling on the mainframe, and is distinct in that it tends to handle multiple value streams and frequently will even be cross-platform. It will bring together the capabilities of multiple technology silos to accomplish the value stream fulfillment for which it is put in place. And then the third part, which is really what leads to this conversation, something I didn't realize until David was sharing with me his experiences, it is far more dynamic on a daily basis than I thought it would be. There are a lot of things that change. There are spikes. There are new workload that are introduced. There are dependencies or delays that are introduced by the lines of business. And so there's a constant need to adjust the batch schedule or a daily schedule, even up until the last minute. That was echoed in some conversations I had with some of our customers in higher education who say that they are getting a deluge of change requests on a daily basis constantly. And so anything they do with the automated workload manager has to take that into account. David, this perhaps leads into things that you might want to remark on, either your own experiences or some of the things that you've seen recently in the industry.
Sure. One of the biggest things that we see coming into scheduling world is that, like Jeff said, it's dynamic. We get requests coming from users that are not daily scheduled jobs; they're ad hoc requests. How do we get these into the schedule? Normally it's just an email from a user saying, "Hey, run this job tonight." Or this job is in the schedule tonight, but I need you to hold it until a certain time at night, or something outside of the normal realm of how the job runs may need to be inflicted into that schedule on a daily, and sometimes even multiple times during the day where it could change. That's like, again, it's something that's outside of the norm.
So, David, why don't you build on that and share with these folks the thing that you first shared with me after you saw a job posting from one of our customers?
I actually saw a job posting from one of our customers, and it triggered some, memories that I had working in the scheduling department. Again, I actually managed a department, a scheduling department, where an email comes down. So 30% of this person's responsibility would be doing dynamic scheduling based on email requests that are being come down from our users. So again, email comes down and says, run this job tonight. Run this job tonight at 8 o'clock tonight. It's all dynamic. It's all based on something that a user decides he wants to do today.
And it really became very intriguing. Once David pointed out this particular job posting from one of our customers that indicated that there could be as much as 30% of the day spent on dealing with these change requests, I began looking at some of the other job postings around the country, and this seemed to be a recurring theme. A large Midwestern regional bank talks about including the orderly adjustment of workload schedules for changes received via email in their job description. One of the large U.S. IT service providers remarks on the need to manage a heavy volume of incoming variances to the standing schedule. And that got us to thinking, if that's the case, if we are in a situation where the COVID pandemic is compelling our IT, our coworkers in the professional IT roles to figure out ways to do more with less, perhaps because there's been staff reductions, perhaps because the constraints of working safe from home have impacted. What could we do? And that's again where David brought his prior operational experience to bear and started describing what some of these emails might look like.
Sure. So one of the emails would, again, come down from a user that's sent to the scheduling department and says, please run PAYUPDT1 and schedule it tonight at 1800. Another type of email would come down, would say the same thing, run, these particular jobs. So it's a set of jobs. It's not just a single job. Run PAYUPD01 July 15th at 1500. Run PAYUPD02, run it on Friday at 1800, and then PAYRPT01, run it on Friday after PAYUPDD02. So these are a common, typical email that can come down from a user. Along with that, we started talking to our groups that are doing our BPA processing, and one, after discussing, what I was envisioning, they said, yeah, we can do that. We can set up an automation process, a BPS process with our product. It has an OCR scanner, and it can scan your email and then call an API function and then send out a RESTful API call to the scheduler and actually act into that schedule and add those jobs into the schedule. So the whole thing is automated.
And this really seemed an intriguing idea, the idea that we could use something like business process automation coupled with optical character recognition to take over what's really a pretty manual, pretty tedious, and not a lot of value add in terms of simply doing the data entry from the change requests incoming in an email into the mainframe scheduling system. Reflecting on the sorts of experiences I've had when I was on the operations side at the largest third-party transaction processor in the world, It did seem, though, it's probably a situation where those sorts of workflows will not always be linear. They'll be a bit more conditional, and there may be situations, as an example, where there needs to be some checkpoint with the scheduling professional to ensure that the change that's being requested is something that can be accommodated. And if it's not, perhaps it needs to be rejected. And then the business process automation can pick up the additional steps that occur afterwards, such as sending an email back to the requester and saying, sorry, we can't do that today. Or equally, when the change is approved and accepted, it continues on to make that change, load it into the mainframe scheduling system, and then again notifies the requester that the change has been accepted and should be performed as they had specified in their email. At the end of the day, that seemed to be something that really had some legs. And as we started talking about that with our customers, what we learned is that there seemed to be about 4 critical elements that they would look for if they were going to shift from a traditional labor-intensive manual processing of all of these incoming change requests to something that's more automated to free up their resources to do more productive and value contributing sorts of activities. The first is, if they were going to get involved with something like this, it needed to be low code or no code. The whole point is to reduce the burden on the professional IT folks within the enterprise and having to require a heavy front-end user interface and workflow construction. The whole process of application development would get in the way. The second is there needs to be variable management, just like we talked about. There may be situations where there needs to be some rules processing and there needs to be some input from something outside of the incoming email that branches the workflow. Certainly, we've already talked to the criticality of having the optical character recognition and having good quality optical character recognition either on-premise or taking advantage of some of the more sophisticated offerings that are available from cloud. And the last is the conditional branching that I mentioned. If all of those elements were together, the customers we're talking with are saying, yes, this is interesting. This could be a genuine benefit for me. And that's what we come to here in this short presentation that we have available to us, to you folks at Share. I hope we've been able to demonstrate that there is a good reason to consider using business process automation as a front-end preprocessor for your changes to your mainframe schedule or to other mainframe activities that you may have. And if you'd like to learn more, please contact your ASG representative or look for an upcoming Bright Talk on the ASG Technologies Systems channel, where David and I and some of our coworkers will actually be taking the workflows that we just showed you and illustrating them using ASG Zeek, our well-known mainframe workload automation offering, and ASG Zenith, which is our newly introduced digital automation platform, which includes things such as business process automation, robotics process automation, optical character recognition, and all these other elements described. David, thank you very much for helping me with this conversation today.
You're welcome, Jeff.
And we hope that you folks at Share found something of value here and that we have a chance to talk with you again very soon. So again, good day, good morning, good evening, whatever time zone. Please stay safe. Please stay well. Please wear a mask. Cheers.